Good morning. Welcome to the 4th edition of The Naked Historian. My name is Michael Albrecht, and it's good to be with you again. Today I'm coming to you on a beautiful spring day here in Spotsylvania County from an area called Pelhams Crossing. Pelhams Crossing is a subdivision, and located at the entrance to that is a wonderful site that is often overlooked, referred to by locals as the Caged Cannon. Now, you may recall in episode 1, when we journeyed to Central Park, I talked to you a little bit about the causes and effects of urban sprawl and development here in Central Virginia. It is a very sensitive subject in this particular area, and even I myself can be conflicted at times. As a longtime resident and taxpayer, I understand the need for economic growth and development. I understand that the job market needs to be stimulated and that we need to keep our taxes down. But at the same time, as a historian and a preservationist, I feel a great responsibility that our generation are the custodians of the histories and legacies of previous generations. So development is something that is important. Progress must be made, but we must always ask ourselves at what cost. This is a perfect example of what can happen whenever urban sprawl spreads into areas that are considered to be hallowed ground. Although I will say that Pelhams Crossing has done a wonderful job in preserving this particular area the best that they can. I'm going to take the camera right now, and I'm just going to turn it around, and you can see this is the entrance to the Pelhams Crossing subdivision. Now, this is a 257-lot neighborhood located in eastern Spotsylvania County. This neighborhood is a very popular and pretty neighborhood setting, and it features an 11.5-acre conservation easement which preserves the gun emplacements that were used by Colonel John Pelham during the First Battle of Fredericksburg in 1862. So we're actually going to get out of our vehicle right now, and we're going to take a walk over to this particular monument. And we're going to get a closer look at this cannon, and we're going to get a closer look at these tabletops here. Now, as I turn the camera around, you can see that this is a wonderfully preserved gun. We'll walk around here so that you can get a full view of this particular artillery piece. Could use a fresh coat of paint, but other than that, it really is a wonderful cannon. And of course, living here in the Fredericksburg and Spotsylvania area, there are cannons pretty much everywhere. So this is one of the only ones, though, that is preserved in sort of this cage-like confinement. It's almost zoo-like. But it has enabled them, of course, to protect these particular guns. Let's take a walk over here to the tabletop marker, which talks a little bit about Colonel Pelham. He was, of course, one of the most popular men in the entire Confederate Army. He was also one of its premier artillerists. At the age of 24, he is known to have engaged the enemy time and time again at close quarters and was praised routinely by his superiors. And his gun crews absolutely adored him. His greatest fame, of course, came here at the Battle of Fredericksburg in December of 1862, when he single-handedly took on the Union Army, delaying its advance by almost an hour. Although he was finally forced back to the main line, Pelham continued to battle the Federals, pouring shot and shell into their advancing ranks. This brave young Alabamian died 3 months later during the Battle of Kelly's Ford, leaving behind a legacy of military prowess and unsurpassed valor. So Colonel Pelham is an example of a young man who was able to rise to become rather extraordinary under the circumstances that he found himself in. And when you look at the history of the Civil War, this seems to be the story time and time again. Ordinary, everyday people rising to the occasion to do extraordinary things. This is another tabletop that's nearby that shows you a diagram of the artillery earthworks that are located in this particular neighborhood. It says between 100 yards ahead of us are two well-preserved earthworks constructed by Confederate forces. General Robert E. Lee had ordered his troops to build these trenches in anticipation of the Union's arrival. The crest of the ridge stands two sets of earthworks that shelter Confederate artillery shooting over the heads of the riflemen in the trenches below. The cannon could sweep the plain between here and the Rappahannock River with deadly fire. So this will give you an idea of where these emplacements were and these earthworks that are still maintained in this wonderful neighborhood at Pelham's Crossing. And there's one last tabletop that we're going to take a look at. This one here talks about the winter line. Actually shows you a map of the location of both armies. And it is very sunny today and there's a heavy glare, so I certainly hope that this is showing up on the camera. We will find out at a later date. There's a quote here. It says, "The rebels have been actively engaged all winter in strengthening their position, and now dark lines of rifle pits and earthworks frown from the bluffs for miles up and down the banks, commanding every available crossing." That is Lieutenant Winthrop D. Sheldon of the 27th Connecticut Volunteers. And there is a sketch on this marker down here. And this shows the Confederate earthworks atop Lee Hill during the Battle of Fredericksburg. In the months following the battle, Lee would extend these works up and down the river for a distance of nearly 30 miles. And once again, there's the wonderful caged cannon at Pelham's Crossing. This is located off of Jim Morris Road, which you can reach by taking Route 17 south. Benchmark Road will also bring you into this neighborhood on the other side, and you'll be able to drive through the neighborhood and see both the earthworks and this particular artillery piece. Once again, another site often overlooked, but a treasure here in central Spotsylvania County. Well, that's all we have today, folks. Thank you for once again joining me, the Naked Historian. We have episodes 5 and 6 already lined up. We're going to be looking at the far too forgotten New Jersey monument over on Route 3, opposite of the Salem Church area, and there are also a couple areas further down, potentially a stone barn in England Run, and maybe even a house that's further down by Hamilton's Crossing. So until we meet again, friends, God bless.